Hey guys, this is Miss Perry. About time I had a video for you guys. We're going to talk about poetry today. I'm going over the things that you saw on page 402 and 403. So this is some things that you are going to have to know. So just take a look, and you can always go back and look at this again if you need to. All right, so how is poetry different from prose? It uses figurative language. It expresses ideas. When you're writing a story, you use some figurative language, but poetry really that's like the main thing it does. It also uses rhyme and rhythm, and sometimes it's kind of lyrical or musical, especially certain types. Do you think of anything else about differences between poetry and prose? Anything you thought of? Tell me in the comments. I would appreciate it. Okay, the types of poetry. The first one I want to talk about is a narrative. A narrative tells a story. So you have characters, plots, and settings. It's kind of like a story that you would write. Some examples of narratives are ballads, epics, and verse romances. So the main thing about a ballad is it tells a story. It uses imagery just like any other poem, but you can actually put it to music. So some of the songs that you've heard, like on the radio, your favorite song probably can be is in the format of a ballad. So yeah, you're listening to poetry and you didn't even know it. Okay, so here's an example of a ballad. This is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It is an ancient mariner, and he stoppeth one of three. By thy long grey beard and glittering eye, now wherefore stoppest thou me? The bridegroom's doors are open wide, and I am next of kin. The guests are met, the feast is set, mayst hear the merry din. Okay, now try to sing this to the tune of Gilligan's Island. If you don't know that, you need to look it up on YouTube. But it's really cool. It fits it really well. Okay, then we go with dramatic poetry. And it's like, it uses drama. And you've got one or more characters, and it's kind of in verse form. So this is the excerpt from The Raven from Edgar Allan Poe. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by the heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distance Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. So yeah, that's pretty dramatic. Okay, now here we go with a lyric poem, and this is really more of a kind of a music thing, but not really. But if you hear like a sonnet or an ode or even a haiku, it just has that lyrical sound to it. So let's look at a Shakespeare poem. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall his death brag thou wanderest in his shade, where in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as me can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So this sounds like he's talking to someone he really cares about. And, once you read it like that, I think it takes more of a meaning than just reading poetry. I'm hoping that you guys are going to see these and kind of get the meaning a little bit better now that we talk about the different types. Okay, now we have different elements of poetry. The first one I want to talk about is meter. And this is a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. So what this means right here, you've got the symbol means stress. So those are the ones that have the emphasis on them. Unstressed are just the ones that kind of you go low on. So you'll see it when we talk about it in a second. This is iamb. I know it looks like an L, but that's iamb, I-A-M-B. And if you look at, that's an unstressed and a stressed. So the example is around. So you see that round is the stressed syllable. Crochet is a stressed and an unstressed, and that's broken. So you hear the stress on the first syllable, broken. Sponde is two stressed syllables. So that's airship. So you're not going down on either one of those. You're going to stay even. Dactyl is a stressed and two unstressed. So this is for a 3-syllable word. And an example is argument. So argument, the R is stressed. Anapest is the last one. You've got two unstressed syllables and a stressed syllable. So if you say understand, the stand part of it comes up in your voice, and that's what we talk about being a stressed syllable. Okay, then we have something called foot, and this is the unit of rhythm. So you're counting the number of feet or the number of units that you have like on a line. So monometer is 1 foot, dimeter is 2 feet, trimeter is 3 feet, tetrameter is 4 feet, and pentameter is 5 feet. So when it talks about iambic pentameter, you have 5 iambic feet per line. So you have 5 words that are 1 foot, and then, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. 5 iambic feet per line. Okay, a stanza is just a group of poetic lines. It doesn't have to be one line of the poem. Sometimes it's more than one. A lot of times you'll see in the stanzas, they're kind of separated. So that may be a better way of looking at it. The arrangement of lines in a poem is sometimes connected to the theme. So you might see a poem that's structured kind of weird, where you might have 1 or 2 words and then another 1 or 2 words, and it's not really a line. And that has something to do with the theme. It makes you go slower as you talk. So anyway, we'll look at some of that. The types of stanzas, you have a couplet, and that's 2 lines. Tercet is 3, quatrain is 4, and sestet is 5. Okay, and then we have sound devices, and you probably are familiar with some of this. These are elements that enhance the poem's meaning, or gives it a musical quality, or evokes emotions. So the first one is rhyme, and that's just repeating the sounds at the end of the words, like top and drop. Alliteration is repeating initial consonant sounds, like weak and weary. Consonants is repetition of final consonant sounds, like pull and fall. So they don't rhyme, but you've still got those L's, that L sound at the end. Assonance is repetition of similar vowel sounds, like low and toe. And I'm sure you have heard of onomatopoeia, and this is those words that sound like what they mean. So hiss and fizz. So those sound like what they're talking about. Okay, and then we go with imagery and figurative type language. And this is language that appeals to your senses. It's also called figures of speech, and they're not literally. It's not a literal way of expressing yourself. It's a more of an imaginative way of speaking. So you've heard of some of these also. Simile is using like or as to compare two things. The example over here is I wandered lonely as a cloud. So, you're comparing yourself with a cloud and you're using as. A metaphor is a simile without using like or as. So life is a broken winged bird. So you're actually saying something is something else. Personification gives human traits to something that's not human. So this is my example is let the rain sing you a lullaby. So rain really doesn't sing lullabies. A person would, but you're giving the rain, you're referring to it as a person. And oxymoron, you probably have heard of this one. It's pretty cool. You have two contradictory words, so it's kind of a paradox, but it's actually true. So if you think of my favorite one is jumbo shrimp, because you hear the thing jumbo shrimp, but shrimp means little and jumbo is big. But you can have big shrimp, and that's why they call them jumbo shrimp. Get it? I thought that was cool. Now, we're going to take this on the road. We're going to go with, think about all these things as we read our poetry, and we're going to go back a little bit more in depth to Emily Dickinson in the next assignment. But I just want you to take a look at these and think about the ones that you know and the ones that you don't know. You probably are going to have a quiz at some point, so you need to know them. So again, this is on page 402 and 403 if you want to review it. Talk to you later. Bye.